Okay, it is 5:32, and I'll call this meeting of the Local Agency Formation Commission to order. And I'm actually going and ask the clerk, please call the roll to establish quorum.
Commissioner Frost?
Here.
Commissioner Jones?
Here.
Commissioner Carter?
Here.
Commissioner Murphy in place for Commissioner Little?
Here.
Commissioner Kaplan?
Here.
Commissioner Walton?
Here.
And Chair Desmond.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay. Well, please, will you, everybody in the chambers and my colleagues, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So before we get started on our agendized item, I am going to read a script because we do have quite a few people in chambers today and others who are, I think, paying a little more attention to our meeting today. So I'll read an introductory script that I won't read it at every meeting, but I think it's important to read just to remind folks about LAFCO, what LAFCO does. I'm the chair this year. The commissioners of LAFCO are volunteer citizens appointed by the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors. Our role is to oversee boundary changes of cities and special districts, the formation of new agencies, including the incorporation of new cities and districts, and the consolidation or reorganization of special districts and or cities. The broad goals of the Commission's directive are to ensure the orderly formation of local governmental agencies, to preserve agricultural and open space lands, and to discourage urban sprawl. Commissions must, by law, create municipal service reviews and update spheres of influence for each independent local governmental jurisdiction within their county-wide jurisdiction. Sacramento LAFCO joins with LAFCOs across the state in working to diligently comply with the new statutes and, in doing so, accepting more responsibility towards overseeing the orderly provision of local government services. Our meetings are always open to the public, and regularly scheduled meetings are shown live on Metro Cable Channel 14, webcast live on the Metro Cable TV website, and posted on the county's website. Comments are welcome. Please complete a speaker slip and return it to the clerk. The time will be limited to 2 minutes per person for public comment, just to keep the meeting going and to keep us on schedule. And we ask that you address your comments to the commission rather than to each other or others in the audience. And thank you for listening or sitting through that. So now we will move to our first item.
Mr. Chair, let me announce that you do have a quorum. The recording was on mute at the time, so we do have a quorum for this LAFCO meeting. And I will go ahead and
you don't have to take roll again.
No, I don't have to.
Okay.
I will like to read the announcement.
Yes, please.
Okay, this meeting of the Local Agency Formation Commission is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse cable systems. This meeting is closed captioned and live streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting replays Friday, May 3rd at 2 p.m. on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/MetroCable14. The Sacramento Local Agency Formation Commission fosters public engagement during the meeting and encourages public participation, civility, and use of courteous language. The board does not condone the use of profanity, vulgar language, gestures, or other inappropriate behavior, including personal attacks or threats directed towards any meeting participant. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes to make a public comment and are limited to making one comment per agenda or off-agenda item. Please be mindful of the public comment procedures to avoid being interrupted or disconnected while making your comment. To make a comment in person, please fill out a speaker request form and hand it to the clerk's staff. The chairperson will open public comments for each agenda off-agenda item and direct the clerk to call the name of each speaker. When the clerk calls your name, please come to the podium and make your comment. If a speaker is unavailable to make a comment prior to the closing of public comments, the speaker waives their request to speak and the clerk will file the speaker request form in the record. The clerk will manage the timer and allow each speaker 2 minutes to make a comment. You may send by email at boardclerk@saccounty.gov. Your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record. If you need an accommodation pursuant to the Americans with Disabilities Act or for medical or other reasons, please see clerk staff for assistance or contact the clerk's office at 916-874-5451 or by email at boardclerk@saccounty.gov. Thank you in advance for your courtesy and understanding of the meeting procedures.
Okay, thank you, Larice. And I had assumed that my written remarks kind of preempted that script, so thank you for completing that. So now we'll move on to our first agenda item.
The first item is the public is encouraged to address the commission concerning any matter not on the agenda. Public comments are limited to 2 minutes. The commission is prohibited from discussing or taking any action on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. We did have a email comment in as well. It's been passed out. But we have also a gentleman that would like to make a public comment, Mr. Dave Ross.
Okay.
Please
Mr. Ross?
come to the podium. You have 2 minutes.
And Mr. Ross, I'll remind you, if this veers into an item on the agenda, I will stop you and ask you to hold your comments until then. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairperson Desmond and fellow commissioners. Forgive me for just reading this, but I'm not all that great in front of a crowd. At the request of several of my constituents and myself, I'm requesting that you consider removing item 5-5 from the agenda tonight, dealing with the Del Paso Manor Water Distribution Resolution. My constituents have expressed disappointment and in a few cases anger at not being allowed.
So, Mr. Ross, I'm going to stop you there because it's appropriate to make that comment when we get to that item.
Okay.
And if you want to come up after that item and make that request then, that we delay it or do something different, you're perfectly,
Wasn't sure
welcome
whether
to
I
do
could
that.
request
Okay.
a removal.
You'll
of
be
an
able to do
item.
it. You'll be able to do it then.
You got
Yep.
it.
Thank you. But we can't just give you 2 bites of the apple here. So, thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, next item.
Item 2 is the consent calendar items 2 to 4 for approval.
Okay, I'll turn to my fellow commission members. Any questions or items you'd like to pull for discussion?
I'll move consent.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any public comments on the consent calendar?
No, we do not.
Okay, then please call the roll. We do a voice vote, or you'll cue us up here, Larice?
We'll cue you up.
Okay.
You may vote. Your vote is unanimous.
Okay, thank you. That'll bring us to our public hearing items.
Public hearing item number 5. It's to consider and adopt CEQA statutory exemption 15061B3 and adopt the addendum to the municipal service review for Del Paso Manor Water District, LAFCO Project 2022-01, and approve a resolution of intent to initiate dissolution of Del Paso Manor Water District, LAFCO Project 2024-01.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn it over to our executive officer.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, my name is Jose Enriquez. I'm the Executive Officer for Sacramento LAFCO, and I'm going to ask if the PowerPoint presentation can be put up on the screen, please. We are having some technical difficulties, so I'll have to do the part for the consultant as well. So, the background on this is that Del Paso Manor is a water district that supplies water to about 1,800 residential and 111 commercial connections within its service area. The estimated 2020 population of the district is 4,854, with an estimated median household income of 86,262. The district has 7 wells and utilizes groundwater as its source. Del Paso Manor has 21 miles of water lines. The overwhelming majority of those water lines are about 60 to 70 years old and would need to be replaced within the next 20 years. And by overwhelming, I mean 20 out of the 21 miles. There's only 1 mile of water pipes that are within, I think, 10, 15 years. Everything else is way past its expected life for the material that they're made out of. And again, we use the term 20 years. That's being generous for reasons that I'll cover in a second. So in January 2021, the Sacramento County Grand Jury investigated Del Paso Manor, and it culminated in a report released on November 5th, 2021. Among some of the findings that the grand jury found were that the district had operational and governmental problems, and recommended that those be rectified. And in addition, they requested that LAFCO conduct a municipal service review on Del Paso Manor to assess how well they're doing on those two items. So on December 7th, 2022, Sacramento LAFCO completed its MSR and the commission approved it. It was LAFCO Project 2022-01. And what the MSR found were that the present and planned capacity of public services and adequacy of public services, including infrastructure needs or deficiencies, were substantial for Del Paso Manor. They did find that the governmental problems that the grand jury had identified had been corrected, but the infrastructure issues were still present. So just a little bit of history beyond what is in the MSR. Del Paso Manor actually had begun discussing some kind of reorganization with Sacramento Suburban Water District in 2020, and basically combining the two districts into one, but the communication was paused by Del Paso Manor. In June of 30th, 2022, Del Paso Manor directors authorized the initiation of a discussion with Sacramento Suburban Water District. And within those discussions, they had actually done a rate study. They had done an infrastructure capacity study, and they had also looked at the finances study. And within those, the districts had actually covered a lot of the material that at LAFCO is typically requested for a reorganization. Things actually looked to be pretty good up until the district went after a Proposition 218 rate increase. And because of a limited staff, they found that they couldn't do both things at the same time, continue with the reorganization discussions and prepare for the Prop 218. So in the summer of 2023, they paused discussions to allow Del Paso Manor to complete those. And they held their Prop 218 vote, which was successful. But soon after, in October 2023, the district paused discussions with Sacramento Suburban again. So, municipal service review. When the districts had paused their discussion, we knew of several issues that the district had, and so we accelerated the timeline for the next review of the water district. It was supposed to be in 2025, but I asked the consultant that even though we were about a year out, to just look at it, because the reality is that the district in and of itself was also having problems, and none of the information that's in the addendum is new. This is all information that was part of the public record, published by the district itself. There's no conspiracy. There's no mole. There's no source or anything else other than what the district has actually published itself as part of the reports that are provided to the district board of district board of directors. And the reason why I want to emphasize this is because, if anything, it underscored and underlined the reasoning for LAFCO indicating we're going to accelerate the re-review of Del Paso Manor a year in advance. So these are some of the findings from the consultant. Basically, the water source, the district has 8 groundwater wells. However, not all of them are operational. The total firm capacity of the district, the firm capacity basically means water that you can, it's a pretty conservative number that you can actually pump out of the ground, is 3,700 gallons per minute. It has, again, 21 miles of pipeline, 1,700 residential connections, plus over 100 commercial connections. The demand is approximately 941 acre-feet per year, but because it doesn't have any meters, we can't really assess the total demand, but this is a pretty good estimate. And in addition, the district has no water storage. Everything that gets pumped out of the ground gets immediately fed into the system. And this is important for several reasons, which I'll get to in a second. So it has Del Paso Manor has aging infrastructure with limited capital improvements over the prior 5 years. The system needs include repairs and upgrades to 5 of the district wells, replacement of water main lines that are less than 4 inches in diameter, a replacement of the steel pipelines, a filtration or treatment for groundwater contaminants, reallocation of backyard water mains, which means that the mains are on people's back of the property, not the front of the property, which is what's usually helpful for installing water meters, and then additional fire hydrants. So what the district needed for very immediate need, and this is supported by the Proposition 218 engineering report that was done, is about $9 million that they needed for short-term capital projects that were an immediate need. But the reality is that they have, in addition to the infrastructure issues, there are incomplete financial records for the past 5 years. They lack investment in infrastructure. They have an increase of net position of 3 to 5 years reviewed, and they budgeted for substantial loss in 2022, 2023. So while the district has been in active conversation with Sacramento Suburban regarding consolidation since 2022, the districts have paused. And so when they were paused, they were essentially looking at a Proposition 218 process, and they were also looking for grant opportunities to help them with their infrastructure repairs. So here are the water wells. They have 8, but the reality is they rely mostly on 3. Well number 2 was removed for service and was capped. Well number 3 is contaminated. Well number 4 had a complete motor failure in January 2024. Well number 7 does not currently meet OSHA regulation and is at risk of contamination from the Bridgestone plume. Well number 8 is contaminated with PCE. So that has reduced the capacity for about 3,000 gallons per minute. And most importantly, and the reason why the 20 miles of water lines need to be replaced is because essentially the district has a lot of leaks along their main water lines. They control it by throttling the system, which basically means kind of fluctuating the pressure. But the reality is that that's just a mitigation measure. It doesn't really solve the problem. And when you have that many water main leaks, not only does it cause problems for residents, but it also means that essentially if you're trying to meet fire flow, it's going to seriously compromise, having those leaks seriously compromise the ability to meet that, up to and including throttling the water pressure. So the changes to regulation will require additional capital improvements. All connections will need to be metered by 2032. The district right now can meet commercial fire flow, but not residential fire flow. And the reason why it can meet it is because it has interties with Sacramento Suburban Water District, which were completed last summer. However, by 2032, the district has to be able to independently be able to meet fire flow. And again, right now, we don't have residential, we only have commercial. So by 2032, which is about less than 8 years now, we're looking at a system where they need to be able to independently meet fire flow, which means digging in new wells. Right now, they're unable to obtain grant funding for infrastructure projects. As I indicated before, they've been pursuing them, but they have not been successful. They did successfully complete a Prop 218 process, which allows them to increase the water rates up to a certain amount. But any additional increases will need additional voter approval to do that.
So, Jose, let me just clarify that, clarify here, and also encourage any commissioners, if you, during the presentation, if you have a question, please go ahead and key up, because there's a lot of information, obviously. The Prop 218 process, was that just to increase rates to cover those short-term costs? And so the hope was, and obviously we'll hear from, we have 2 board members here tonight, and commissioners will be able to ask them questions as well, but the hope was maybe the grant funding would help them close the gap with some of these other longer-term capital costs. Is that
correct? The reality is that the district really faces several challenges. One is an immediate need to replace aging infrastructure. The other two to be able to cope with any failing systems, such as, like, for example, the well number 4, that the motor basically burnt out in January of 2024, and that motor was way past its useful life. So there's that, and then there's also incoming mandates, which I mentioned, the fire flow. They have to independently meet that by 2032. They have to install meters by 2032 into residence homes. And in addition, unfortunately, our consultant wasn't able to make it. We're having technical issues. But she reminded me this morning that there's now also a PFAS mandate that's coming down that the district will also have to mitigate.
Explain that, Jose, a little bit more.
PFAS is essentially a chemical that was put into a lot of cooking materials. It's called a forever chemical because essentially it's there. It makes surfaces slick, which helps with, let's say, cooking. But because it's a forever chemical, it infiltrates the water and then it remains there. It doesn't naturally degrade. And so it's become a serious health concern that the state is looking at basically requiring all water purveyors to essentially filter out PFAS from the system. It's a notoriously difficult chemical to be able to filter out. So there's a lot of technical, substantial infrastructure improvements that will be needed that the district will have to install into their water system before it can deliver water into homes and businesses.
I have a I just wanted to add to the questioning line on the PFAS. Is that something in cooking utensils, or is that something in an oil? Where is this chemical coming from?
It's for people. It usually comes from cooking utensils, like, your nonstick pans. The reason why they're nonstick is because there's PFAS in them. And so, but that's just one example of where PFAS had used. It's a wonderful repellent, to keep stains off of things, and keeping things from sticking. But the reality is that it has, it's been found in all sorts of different water systems, and it started to cause some health concerns.
Wow. Thank you.
It's in a lot of seafood as well. Seafood, yeah.
Yeah, so it's in drinking water. It's in the ecosystem. It's pretty pervasive.
We can eat it and then we can drink it for the rest of our lives, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Based on the additional infrastructure needs, the district will essentially need to continue raising rates, which increases the rate of burden on ratepayers. And by this is what I mean. Prior to the Prop 218 vote, the water rates for residents were pretty comparable to their surrounding districts. The Board of Directors has authorized the increase of rates. So right now they're starting to, Del Paso Manor residents are starting to see water rates, water bills that are higher than their neighbors. And based upon what has been authorized under Prop 218, it can also be significantly higher than their neighbors. And the problem is that when you have the infrastructure needs spread across a very limited customer base, and you saw that it's 1,900 residential connections, the cost per ratepayer goes up significantly, especially on a $52 million infrastructure. And by the way, the $52 million is kind of an estimate. Several numbers have been thrown around pre-COVID when we didn't have supply chain issues. The number was around 30 million. Our consultant estimates about 40 to 52 million. It might be higher than that. We really don't know. But the reality is the cost of infrastructure spread across a very limited customer base means that you're going to have water rates that aren't sustainable. The reason why I gave the medium household income $86,000 annually, that's a pretty modest income level for folks. And if they're going to be paying a lot of in their water bill, that's just it's going to be significantly burdensome onto their household budgets. So continuing, we have the, went backwards. Essentially, the increased water rates are only enough to cover an assessed project of totally $9.23 million. It does not provide for any long-term capital improvement program. The district could pursue a bond measure or a loan to fund the Prop 218 projects, but both options include substantial interests. And I'll cover that in a second as well. Rates would ultimately have to be increased far above what other nearby water providers charge, and a consolidation. But the light at the end of the tunnel is that essentially the consolidation with another water district actually makes El Paso Manor residents eligible for up to $100 million in state grants and principal forgiveness funding, which is more than enough to take care of both the failing infrastructure, but also some of the equipment upgrades that they'll need. So from a governmental standpoint, the district continues to see high turnover in staff. There have been 5 general managers in the past 4 years. The district no longer has an agreement with Sacramento Suburban for on-call staffing. However, the district did vote 2 weeks ago to start negotiations on that. They have had trouble retaining active board members. Half of the board resigned in September of 2021. The board president resigned in February 2024, and actually it's not up on the presentation, but there actually was another director who resigned in 2023 and who left the board. And that position had to be filled. So the high turnover can be an indicator of stability. That's pretty well known in governmental circles, that it's not just in staff, but it's also within the governing board. And the conclusions from the addendum were that due to the age of the district's infrastructure and lack of routine maintenance for several years, the district is no longer viable as an independent service provider. Maintaining the district as a standalone entity would impose a necessary and unavoidable financial burden on ratepayers, and consolidation with another service provider would make the district eligible for substantial funding, which will improve water services and provide for a more reliable, sustainable management of the water system. So, chronic deficiencies. Again, we're talking about the wells. The district has 8, but only 3 are currently operational. You can see from the chart that we only have 2 water wells that are actually less than 15 years old. The primary well, number 9, is 13 years old. You have another backup, which is well 6B, and that's 10 years old. Well number 4, which was also a well that the district was actively using, was built in 1951. And so essentially the motor was, I believe the motor, I think, was past its useful life in 1999, and it continued being in service in 2025. And that's for an additional 5 years or 25 years. And that's pretty indicative of some of the infrastructure that the issues that the district has. So the addendum, November 2022, LAFCO adopted the MSR, and it details several deficiencies, but the infrastructure and financial concerns did not address the deficiencies in the water flow. And so, again, when I directed our consultant to review the district again this year, I also asked, hey, look at this aspect as well. And essentially, it just the updated information and determinations just indicate that there are chronic service deficiencies that the district has, and essentially it can't grow out of its problems. It's entirely surrounded by other water purveyors. It's got a limited customer base, and the reality is that just the sheer number of issues that the district has, the only way to pay for it is either A, the residents pay for it themselves, or B, the district consolidates with another agency and it becomes eligible for funding from the state. So finances, and this is what I wanted to get into. The Prop 218 vote was to basically take care of an immediate need for $9 million, essentially, of necessary infrastructure abilities. But here are the district's choice options, and this was revealed to the district in October of 2023. They can go for a bond of $9 million that can cost up to $18 million to pay back with interest, and that's based upon current interest rates. If they time it right, they might get a break in interest rates, but that just means an additional $5 million instead of $9 million that they pay back in interest. The other option is a loan for $9 million that will cost them $12 million to pay back with interest. Either way, the district essentially will be paying a lot of money to pay back some kind of borrowing mechanism, and it does not improve their infrastructure. It's not money that's going into their system. So whether you're talking about $9 million or $5 million or $3 million, we're talking millions of dollars that could have better been used for infrastructure needs. So available funding from the state, essentially the State Water Resources Control Board has programs that assist districts that consolidate with other water agencies. It's essentially, and I've checked because I contacted somebody from that unit, and so we know that the district would be eligible for grants and principal forgiveness funding that could be worth up to $60,000 to $80,000 per connection. That makes them eligible for over $100 million in funding that could be used for their infrastructure. And that would be money that essentially will be coming from the state into Del Paso Manor, in which the residents would not have to bear the burden of the cost for those infrastructure improvements. So I'll pause here because that essentially details how we got here in terms of what the issues are with the district. And then we'll go into the matter in which the staff is recommending, which is the LAFCO-initiated dissolution process. But I figured that I should pause here in case you wanted questions.
So before we get into kind of the prospective process discussion, any questions or comments from commissioners? Okay, I did have a question on, I'll hold this till afterwards because it plays into the process, but I had some questions about the state grant program and the criteria for eligibility, but I'll hold that till you're done with the process moving forward.
Sure. So I can talk briefly about what the state process would be. Essentially, the Del Paso Manor Board did vote 2 weeks ago to restart discussions with Sacramento Suburban about some kind of reorganization. In that process, they can apply for the state to fund essentially an engineering report to inventory the infrastructure needs and deficiencies that the district currently has. And what that allows them to do is essentially that feeds into how much money they're actually would receive should they consolidate, and then they apply for the cost of infrastructure replacement once that consolidation takes place. So the state is willing to put money up front towards an engineering report to detail what the issues are. They would not provide the funding until the district actually consolidates with another water agency. Right now, the discussion is with Sacramento Suburban Water District as opposed to a private vendor. But and to be honest, I know that they are eligible with another public water system. I'm not sure about the eligibility to receive that funding if they consolidate with a private provider. So I will give you that caveat that I don't know. And that doesn't mean that they won't be. I'm just saying that I don't know. So the LAFCO-initiated dissolution process. Essentially, LAFCO's always had the ability to consolidate or to dissolve water districts on its own. The main challenge is that if the commission approves a consolidation or dissolution, it goes to a second hearing that's called a protest hearing. And in that hearing, essentially people can protest the commission decision. And if they do so, they can kick it into an election at 10% of the number of protests that are received either from landowners or from registered voters. This is in sharp contrast to what happens with that petition that's brought in by a third party. If they do that, the protest threshold is actually 25%. So for the longest time, LAFCOs really did not pursue consolidations or dissolutions because the threshold to kick it into an election is very, very low. And that's the case, the costs immediately skyrocket when they do that. The state looked at the issue, and effective January 1, 2023, there's a new provision in the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act, which is the LAFCO law that LAFCO operates under. It allows for the commission to consider the initiation or dissolution of a district based on the determinations of an MSR. So if the MSR finds substantial problems with finances, governance, infrastructure, ability to provide services, etc., then the commission, pursuant to Government Code 56375.1, can initiate a proposal for dissolution of a district, but it would be subject to a 25% threshold if, at a public hearing, the commission approves, adopts, or accepts an MSR that has been conducted and has found those issues. For projects subject to dissolution, Government Code 56375.1 states that the commission has to adopt a resolution of intent to initiate dissolution based on chronic service provision deficiencies, and it must provide a 12-month minimum remediation period to afford time to rectify the specified deficiencies. The addendum of the MSR basically sets forth the changed circumstances and revises the remediation period to be 12 months from its approval by the commission for a period through May 2025. So essentially, you have an MSR addendum that shows the chronic deficiencies that the district is experiencing. What staff is requesting that you adopt today is the resolution of intent to initiate dissolution. And what it does is that the district should you adopt this resolution tonight, it does not dissolve the district. I want to make that clear. It does not dissolve the district. What it does is it establishes a 12-month remediation period that allows the district time to rectify the specified deficiencies. So if 12 months from now, so we're talking May 2025, if the commission finds that the district has adequately remedied the deficiencies, you rescind this resolution, and no further action is required. Del Paso Manor can continue from then on.
Jose, let me ask you a follow-up question on that. If after the 12-month period, say, for instance, there's significant progress, or would this commission have the flexibility to extend that 12-month period?
Yes, it can. And actually, there's a separate provision that allows, and I think it's in the next slide, yes. Essentially, 6 months from now, which would be put in November 2024, the district has to provide a status report to you about what it is that they're doing to address those deficiencies. So if, let's say, just throwing something out there, let's say that it received a substantial grant that covers half of the cost, they'll provide that status update to you. Or if they hold another Prop 218 vote that allows the district to increase the water rates even more beyond the October 2023 Prop 218, that's additional information for you to consider. But essentially, 6 months from now, they have to give you a status update on how they're doing on addressing those remediations. So you set the clock tonight. 6 months from now, they come back, and then 6 months after that, you evaluate where they're at. And yes, if they've made substantial progress, you can rescind, or if they've made some progress but not addressed all of the issues, you can give them additional time on the clock. So all of those are possibilities for the district. So at a publicly noticed May 2025, the commission will consider whether to rescind the resolution that the staff is requesting that you adopt tonight, or you can proceed with dissolving Del Paso Manor Water District. None of these actions preclude Del Paso Manor from pursuing their own consolidation or reorganizations with Sacramento Suburban Water District, or applying to LAFCO on their own prior to May 2025. So that there are still a lot of options for the district to pursue. And and to provide as a status to the commission. So we get to staff's recommendations, which are essentially you adopt the CEQA statutory exemption 15061B3 for the following two actions. Number one, you adopt the MSR addendum. And number two, or number three up on the board, basically you adopt the resolution of intent to initiate the dissolution of Del Paso Manor Water District. The resolution, again, gives Del Paso Manor 12 months to identify how it's going to remediate and remedy the specified deficiencies. And at the end of the 12-month period, the commission can either approve the dissolution or rescind the resolution to initiate dissolution, and no further action will be taken. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jose, and I appreciate this very detailed, comprehensive presentation. I think it's extremely important. This is not a discussion that this commission enters into lightly at all. So I appreciate you taking time and the commissioners and the public indulging the presentation. Now I'll take any questions from commissioners before we go to public comment. Yes, Commissioner Frost.
Jose, was the consultant able to quantify the prospected increase in rates in order to accomplish what they need to accomplish by 2032 or?
No, no. What she did is, what we do know is basically what the Prop 218 vote from 2013 or 2023 authorizes the board to increase the water rates. And I think your general manager Coyen from Del Paso Manor can answer that question. So we know that cost, but that only covers 9.2 million of the needed 52 plus.
There's no way.
And it does not, and we did not quantify those mandates. So those are in addition to the $52 million. So essentially district residents, if Del Paso Manor remains independent, are essentially on the hook for all of those to meet all those mandates and also institute the repairs of the infrastructure. And one thing that I kind of covered but I did not make very clear, right now the water mains are on the backyards of people's homes. If they are to meter, the district would have to either install the water meters in people's backyards or they have to move the water mains to the front yard so that the water meters can be placed in the front. Placing the water meters at the front actually allows them to be able to get the metering information remotely versus having somebody go in and try to do that. I'm not sure. I'm not a water person, so or water infrastructure person, so I don't know whether you can have the same remote reading capabilities with meters that are installed in the backyard.
Is there it seems like there's an imminent fire danger there.
That is
so
correct.
Is that a priority in the 1 year? Would that be like first on their
Probably.
list of?
You have to address it because the reality is that right now residents don't have fire flow, and that's going to impact their fire insurance costs. And may also have, if they don't have fire insurance, that also may have detrimental effects in terms of the value of the home as well, right? So there are some other costs that are kind of hidden that are per resident. They're not addressed in the MSR, but we know they're there.
Thank you.
Good questions, Commissioner Frost. Yeah, I appreciate that. I had a question. It escaped me. And if we do have three of the board members who are going to be providing public comment, as well as I think the general manager signed up for public comment. And so I encourage commissioners, if you have a question of them, feel free to ask it after they provided their 2 minutes of public comment. So I don't see any other questions from commissioners, so we will turn now to public comment.
Okay, Mr. Chair, we did receive 6 public comment speaker slips. We'll call Dave Ross back to the podium. Mr. Ross, you have 2 minutes for your comment.
Welcome back.
I think all of you can see the gravity of this situation. And actually, I'm going to continue to just read from my notes here. My constituents have expressed disappointment and in a few cases anger at not being allowed adequate time to review the 45-page staff report. that you received in your board packet. Hopefully, you've read every page. I kindly ask for you to consideration in granting an extension of time for the ratepayers of the district as well as the district board. An extension is essential to allow sufficient time to thoroughly review and comprehend the proposed resolution and information contained in the detailed board packet. An extension given tonight will allow the ratepayers and the district board to make an informed decision on whether to support the LAFCO staff proposal. The dissolution of a special district is serious, and sufficient time for all stakeholders to review all the facts cannot be emphasized enough. The mere discussion of this dissolution can understandably evoke feelings of uncertainty and fear within ratepayers and employees. We have a minimal staff, and should they, understand that the dissolution may be in the future, there's nothing to keep them from jumping ship. Hi there. Welcome back. Okay. So, that's a consideration to take into consideration. Sorry for my bad grammar. Anyway, it's something to be very aware of, that this kind of a discussion can be very detrimental to the employees of the district. So even losing one would be detrimental to us. Your understanding and support in this manner are greatly
Mr. Rouse,
appreciated.
please wrap up your comments. Thank you.
Didn't hear you.
Please wrap up your comments.
Oh, I got 4 seconds. Okay, your understanding and support of the matter will be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.
Next, we have Trish Harrington.
Good evening.
Hi. I have been a resident of Del Paso Manor for at least 35 years. I moved a lot when I was a kid and said, no, I'm not. We've gone through great water. I actually, when we go down to visit our family in Phoenix, which is all of our kids and grandkids, I take gallons of our water with us because their water is so bad. I appreciate the comments that were made prior, but it kind of irritates me because where have these people been? We've been talking about this through the 2x2s with Sac Suburban for at least a couple years. I was talking about it when I was in the board back in 2018, that we cannot survive because there's too much stuff that needs to be done. And we just, we're not a rich residence. And, to be paying $400 or $500 a month for a water bill would just kind of not only take away our housing, but it's just crazy. A business cannot survive with over half of their income going to salary and benefits, and that is unfortunately the case with us. I applaud LAFCO for taking this on. I think you guys have done a marvelous job. My hat's off to you. I do not want to see this delay any longer. It's gone on long enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Trish.
Sure. Next, we have Gwen Pratt. Pratt, you have 2 minutes for your comment.
Hi, good evening. I'm here with two hats, kind of. One is as a ratepayer, and the other is as a director. I'm not, of course, speaking for the board. I'm just speaking for myself as an individual director. My greatest concern isn't for me, it's for the people who've placed their trust in me as a public servant. And I would echo very strongly what Ms. Harrington just said. We stand in a very difficult spot. We have an opportunity to, possibly an opportunity, to consolidate or merge, I'm not sure the exact correct term, with Sacramento Suburban. They've indicated that they're willing to meet as a board with our board in May. Any type of delay, any removal of this from the calendar or continuance is an indication to Sac Suburban, and I'm not saying you're indicating it, but if we support it, it's an indication that perhaps we have cold feet. Maybe one more time, we're not going to go forward with what the only sane choice is, which is to merge with a district that does have the staff and, more importantly, as Mr. Enriquez pointed out, be available for the grant funding. Right now, and we have worked hard, we've employed an outfit to look for grant money, and there isn't any, or we haven't been able to find any. So I support what Mr. Enriquez has brought forward. Not that I want to see Del Paso dissolved. What I want to see is a fire lit.
Right, please wrap up your comments. Thank you.
And great incentive to support the merger. Thanks.
Thank you, and I'm sorry I didn't recognize you. Yes, all 4 board members are here, so thank you for being here.
Next, we have Carl Doak. Mr. Doak, you have 2 minutes for your comment.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Carl Doak. My wife and I have lived in Del Paso Manor for 35 years, and currently I serve as the Vice President of the District Water Board. I support the resolution of intent to initiate the dissolution of the district. Per LAFCO, it is projected it'll cost $52 million for pipes, but additional $5 million for meters that will be necessary in 2032. The $57 million would likely be in segments. No one's going to loan $57 million up front when we can't do the infrastructure in a length of time that would be very tedious. So it would be in segments, probably 5-year segments. So, for example, every 5 years, a loan would need to be taken out to finance a portion of the $57 million. So it could take 25 years before the entire infrastructure is replaced. With pipes that are currently 70 years old, 25 more years is a long stretch of time to roll the dice with the hope you don't have a major failure. With a debt of $57 million spread over 1,900 ratepayers, the rates would be enormous. And this is a community with a median household income less than 150% of the MHI in California. We have an opportunity to obtain a grant that will resolve our infrastructure needs. To combine would be reckless, to not combine would be reckless and a disservice to the ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Next, we have Robert Mattioli. Mr. Mattioli, you have 2 minutes for your comment.
I am Robert Mattioli, a director of the Del Paso Manor Water District. I have not been given a chance to voice all of my concerns on this matter other than through limited time to respond to LAFCO's presentations at various board meetings. I have been confined by time to ask only a few questions. I have concerns pertaining to transparency on some issues. Therefore, I would like this matter tabled so that the Del Paso Manor Board can formally meet to discuss LAFCO's proposed action. The delay can be considered a public review period until the commissioners can review certain facts and consider additional comments. And I would like to be able to have the time to review this presentation. I believe you have been given incorrect information concerning the revolving fund and the requirement, the timing on requirements of meters pursuant to codified law. And I do not have time to get into the discussion right now on those issues. I need time, and our board has not met on at a combined meeting to discuss these issues in detail. And I worked for the board for 31 years, and I participated in grant funding. And there was errors here, that incorrect information that has been given to you.
So, excuse me, Bob, before you go away, Jose, I mean, we obviously had the grand jury report in 2021 and the MSR in 2022, correct?
Correct.
So I'm just going to respond to you, Bob, that this information has been out there. The presentation all comes from information that has been out there on the street publicly for a long time.
And if I may add, Chair Desmond, I also was at the board meeting. It was a special board meeting called of the Del Paso Manor Water Board on April 16th, and I was basically able to provide to the board of directors a preview that this is the action that was going to come before the commission. At that point, public notice had been provided 21 days in advance. And I made myself available to answer questions from the board about the proposed LAFCO action. So to reiterate, none of this information should be new, neither to the board or to staff or to the residents. It's been public knowledge. It's been out there. We just put it all together into one report.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Kaplan.
Chair Desmond, just a quick follow-up on that. Executive Director, since your meeting with the Del Paso Manor Water District, has any board member reached out to you, asked further questions?
No.
Have you received any emails asking for further clarification?
No.
Is there anything drastically new other than what you've presented of increased significant deficiencies that the board members wouldn't have already known about?
No, again, all these reports actually were gleaned from updates that the board regularly receives from its staff. So again, there's no mole, there's no inside informant. This is all information that's been public for years.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Carter.
Yeah, so just to follow up on that too, to make sure I'm kind of just getting lay of the land. Has the board, so I understand that, the board hasn't discussed this in detail of the fact of coming to a resolution on, the board supports or doesn't support, this dissolution. But was there questions given to you at that meeting on the 16th, or was there sentiment or direction that kind of gave you when you presented this, and what was the sentiment there, from the board if there wasn't a, formal decision made or any of that?
Yeah, questions were, the board members had questions, and I was there. I could answer the questions about the LAFCO actions and what it could mean for the district residents and for the board. And in addition, there were other folks who were there, namely Dan York from Sacramento Suburban Water District. He's the general manager. Mm-hmm. He was able to answer some of the technical questions that I can't answer. And of course, General Manager Coyen was there as well to ask questions about the infrastructure. So the direction that the board took on the 3-1 vote was to reinitiate the discussions with Sacramento Suburban about a possible reorganization. And in addition to negotiate a new staffing agreement with Sacramento Suburban for on-call services to essentially back up Del Paso Manor staff in case there's anybody who leaves or they need emergency. I think they have an emergency backup system, but this would be more for ongoing operational issues. So they did not take a vote as to whether or not they support the LAFCO action, but they were able to get answers to their questions.
Okay. I have additional questions, but I want to finish up public comment.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Carter. We have one more public comment, I believe.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have Adam Coyen. Mr. Coyen, you have 2 minutes for your comment.
Hello, Adam.
Good evening. Adam Coyen, General Manager, Del Paso Manor Water District. I did want to report that well 4 motor has been replaced. That gives us an additional 400 gallons per minute if needed. The casing is still 70 years old, and it is past its usable life and could fail at any time. I did want to read the mission of Del Paso Manor Water District. Del Paso Manor Water District's mission is to provide safe drinking water in accordance with California and federal regulations and to maintain reliable water supply for consumption and fire protection. Currently, without the interties of SSWD, we are incapable of meeting that goal. We had a big leak the other day. A contractor hit a pipe, and we used hundreds of thousands of gallons of SSWD water. If a fire had have occurred at the same time, it would have been devastating. This isn't the first time I've been general manager here. I came back to help with the 218 process. I would like to commend the current Del Paso Manor Water District Board for their valiant effort in starting and passing the current rate increase. I think that, they were addressing the needs of the district. They recognized those needs and stepped up to serve the district. It's my hope that if the resolution of dissolution is passed tonight, that they step up once again and voluntarily enter into discussions with SSWD and reorganize with SSWD prior
Please wrap up your comments.
prior to the remediation period.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam. Commissioner Murphy.
Does bringing well 4 back online, does that improve your ability to provide fire service, fire flows?
Yes, it does, but you're supposed to be able to meet max day demand and fire service at the same time. And so max day demand is you have to take your biggest source offline and add up the gallon. We can't even meet max day demand. And then the commercial fire flow is almost double our max day demand. So we'd have to meet both of those things at the same time.
Are you able to put that number in a gallons per minute efficiency?
It's around 3,000 gallons per minute for max day demand and 3,000 to 3,500 gallons per minute for commercial fire flow. And that needs to be sustained for 4 hours.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Adam.
Yep.
Thank you for being here. Okay, that concludes our public comment.
Yes, it does.
Madam Clerk? Okay, then I'll bring it back to the commission, and we'll start with Commissioner Carter.
Yeah, so looking at all the options kind of placed here, and thank you, Jose, for really delineating those out as explicitly as you have. What does 30 days more get anyone in kind of the situation other than more time in a multi-year process to read, facts and figures that have been out there? So to me, it's like I'm not seeing, if we make the decision tonight to move forward with this, it doesn't kick everything into gear tomorrow to dissolve anything. I mean, it just starts a long-standing process and kind of starts a kind of more formal look at that, in my opinion. I mean, it's not like this moves into, a territory that can't be undone. So postponing that for another 30 days, to me, continues to put the residents at risk if you're not even meeting maximum, daily demand. And where that is, I mean, it's very thankful that there hasn't been a catastrophic incident that has really tested this and kind of put that on the map. So, if you're one catastrophe away from, utter failure, I don't want to be the one that next day to be like, we could have, should have done this yesterday, and we kicked the can down the road again, and did that. So, I mean, to me, I'm not seeing a benefit in delaying a decision for 30 days. I'm seeing more of this starts the process and we still get to do all of that still. It's not like once the decision is done tonight, no other review is done from then on. And I think it still gives it gives the board, support and backing that they're doing their job and they get to continue doing that job, and they have the support in going to those, negotiations. And I'm afraid that if we don't start this process a year from now, we're going to be in the same situation. So that's kind of where my thoughts are at the moment. But curious what, the rest of my fellow commissioners think.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter. Commissioner Kaplan.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know who can potentially maybe answer this. It might be Adam, but it may be you. We're talking about fire flow. We are also dealing in California with a significant insurance crisis. Have you received notification, or as you as ratepayers, have you received notification of potential cancellation of your coverage of insurance? So the response was not yet.
Adam, you can come down if you want, just in case.
Yeah.
Come on down the podium.
Yeah, at this time, no.
Thank you. My concern, Commissioner Carter, I'm with you on not waiting 30 days, common sense, because of the process that state law does allow. This is a year-long process. It is not a happening. I know I am new to this commission, but there was abundance of reading to get up to speed, and also hearing from board members that this has been going on for quite a long time. This is also a public meeting. So I am very concerned, as this information comes out, is publicly available, that insurance companies will now reach out and start canceling coverage because you are not meeting the maximum fire flow. So that is one significant consideration and concern I have when we look at, as the law requires, a preponderance of evidence when we start the dissolution process. That is one that is not listed. That should probably be under consideration of the fire hazard and the potential cancellation of their insurance. I think it needs to be stated that today's cost of potentially $57 million for the 1,800 and some odd customers would cost each household $30,579.40. Based off of the average household income, that is not something that is viable for the residences, not to mention inflation and everything else going on. It would give me heartburn to say that we wouldn't move forward on something like this, because as public comment was stated, that it could potentially put people out of their house. And then if you lose customers, you're losing ratepayers, and then the cost is going to go up for everyone else. Not to mention, I think it bears talking about that Prop 218 cost for 4 years is 22%. That is a significant amount for a population that, on the whole, is more on a fixed income and cannot absorb that. I think it also plays out because this has happened in the past, that as LAFCO, we have a fiduciary duty when another elected body is not fulfilling their fiduciary duties to protect customers and ratepayers and do the right thing by them. I am not, and I want to be very clear, saying that this current board is failing in their fiduciary duties. I think it has failed in the past based off of the 2021 grand jury report, but I also know that there are new board members. But I am saying we, as LAFCO, based off of this information and this extensive report with factual information that does show the preponderance of evidence that there are chronic service provision deficiencies that are deviating from industry standards. Fire flow is just one of them. That they had to come into compliance with government regulations, and there is not a master plan of how to raise the $57 million to remediate the service deficiencies to come compliant in state law. I think your consultant and your staff have met the burden of preponderance of evidence, so that there is no question in my mind legality of moving forward with this. But also, as a board member and a member of the bar, I take fiduciary duty pretty seriously. And to not move forward tonight with this information would be a failure of doing our fiduciary duty. I know others may feel differently than I, but I think it bears stating for the record the reasons why I think we need to move forward with this.
And that $57 million price tag only goes up tomorrow and every day here on after.
Correct.
So.
Correct. Construction costs, you might as well add 10% on per year.
Yep.
And just to clarify, it's $52 million for the water main plus the $5 million to install water meters. It does not address the issue of drilling a new well in order to meet maximum daily demand and fire flow. And it also does not talk about any enhancements that you'll need in the system for PFAS chemical removal.
Thank you.
So it probably would be the $111 million in grant funding that is available if consolidation is met.
Probably.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Kaplan. Commissioner Walton.
Yes, so from what I can hear and read, the only opposition to LAFCO adopting this resolution is you all, some of you want more time. And it sounds like the information has been out there. And I'm not hearing any alternative, like, well, this is what we'd like to do instead of moving forward with this. And if there is some viable alternative, I'd love to hear it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Walton. Well, I think a viable alternative, that's what that 12 months is for, right? To identify if there's a viable alternative. They will have time to do that, right? So,
Right, but to accept a delay in this moving forward,
Right.
I'd want more evidence that there's an alternative option available.
okay, thank you. Commissioner Murphy.
Both sets of my grandparents resided in the Del Paso district. And if they were still alive, I would say that it would be paramount that we address this, because addressing a 22% rate increase for only addressing a small part of the problem and the potential of not having fire insurance, that's just unconscionable. As an alternate member, I think I could be a little bit more direct. The district is a dumpster fire, and you don't have the adequate fire flow to put it out. Moving forward with this, I'm satisfied that the information has been out in the public domain long enough. I was alerted by the public member that he couldn't be here, and I had no problem in finding the information and reading through the report and feeling that I had enough information to make an informed decision. I'm satisfied that that information has been vetted thoroughly, and the recommendations that come forward allow for further conversations to take place, but it does start a clock, which, from my point of view, 12 months is still too long for it to be satisfied, but at least it gets it going to the point where that state funding opportunity for the $111 million can be put into place to solve this problem. So that's my perspective.
Thank you, Commissioner Murphy. Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The basic mission of LAFCO is to ensure efficient delivery of efficient municipal services. You don't get much more basic than water. And the proposal before us tonight is to succeed with that goal in the Del Paso Manor Water District area. I came up with similar figures as my fellow commissioners, maybe a little bit higher because I included the $29,000 for each connection, the divvying up between the 52 mil, then you add another 5 or 6 mil for meters, et cetera. And I came up with, again, just rough estimate, $4,000 a year for each household over 8 years. And as many folks have mentioned tonight, this is day one. Day two, costs go up. Day three, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a huge concern for rectification as soon as possible. This idea of an extension request, guess what? It's included in our resolution, 12 months. And 12 months ago, I sat in with representatives from the board and the GM from Del Paso Manor Water, and we started talking about this. So that's very focused, and that's already been 12 months. So as far as I'm concerned, there's a 24-month time period here for information, discussion, exchange of ideas, and alternative solutions. All righty. And those costs that I mentioned, they do not include the extra additional for the contamination situations, for dealing with all the contaminants coming on. And there was another chromium 6, chromium 9 thing that came out in article in the media last week about federal regulations coming in on that. And that we haven't even touched on half of the contaminant issues. So that concludes my remarks. I'm prepared to support the staff recommendation.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. I don't see any other commissioners queued up, so I'll just make a few comments. But first, I have a couple questions. Process question, Jose. If the commission were to approve this action tonight, could the Del Paso Manor Water District, notwithstanding that, initiate their own dissolution action, and what would the process be for that?
Yes, they can. Let's say that the discussions with Sacramento Suburban are successful, and at this time last year, they looked very promising, up to and including, by the way, the ability for Sacramento Suburban to absorb the current staffing minus the general manager. But the current personnel at Del Paso Manor would find an employment home in Sacramento Suburban, based upon some of the things that they had discussed and agreed to up until that point. But yes, if both districts essentially apply to reorganize, and it would involve the dissolution of Del Paso Manor and the annexation of the service area into Sacramento Suburban. If they were to do that, the process is still the same. It comes before you for approval of the petition. Should you approve it, there's a protest period for residents to protest the commission decision.
What's the criteria for the protest if it's initiated by the board itself?
If it's initiated by the board itself, should the commission approve that petition, a letter is sent out to every registered voter and landowner within the Del Paso Manor service area with a protest form saying, if you protest the commission decision to dissolve Del Paso Manor and annex the service area into Sacramento Suburban, send this form back, similar to a Prop 218 vote. LAFCO tallies.
My question is just simple.
Yeah.
Just simple one is is the protest threshold different if it's a board initiated dissolution as opposed to a LAFCO initiated dissolution?
No, okay, it's 25%.
Okay, so, and my question was kind of a rhetorical one in a way, because I think it's important that the board understand that they have the ability to not have something foisted upon them by LAFCO. They could actually take this into their own hands and control this process a little more if they choose to do so. That's why I asked that question. And then the other thing, Commissioner Kaplan whispered in my ear and had a question about process in terms of coming back at that 6-month period. So this would be agendized to come back to us, in November?
Around the November timeframe, it'll be a 6-month process. There is no noticing requirement, but we will provide 21 days notice to folks that basically this is going to come before the commission at that
6-month period. Okay. I have some more comments, but Commissioner Carter.
So just to confirm, this takes no action out of the board's hands on doing their own action moving forward tomorrow or within the next 12-month.
That is correct.
So all this does is say, we have a process in place. If you take no action within the 12 months, we are already starting action on our own on your behalf.
That is correct.
So at this point tomorrow, the board still has full ability to make decisions and changes, as well as constituents within that district as well.
That is correct. The district is not automatically dissolved. There's a 12-month remediation period.
So, well, after comments are done, I'm ready to move the item.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter. And, I think I made a statement that this commission doesn't take these kinds of decisions or discussions lightly, and the amount of discussion by every commissioner certainly is a testament to that. And I appreciate the comments and the dialogue, very thoughtful one. I think Commissioner Murphy used the term unconscionable, and I think that's probably the most appropriate term. I was thinking about how there are some compelling reasons here. Obviously, what you've heard about the burden on the ratepayers, hearing from the general manager himself about the inability to meet the threshold of providing reliable water to meet the fire suppression needs in this district. And one thing I wanted to add to Commissioner Jones' comments is, we also were involved in this 2x2 effort. Commissioner Jones and we met several times with the Del Paso Manor District Board. We've been doing this having this discussion for 2.5 years. My only regret is that we're not taking this action sooner. And with that, I am supportive of adopting staff's recommendation to adopt the addendum to the MSR and to adopt the resolution to initiate dissolution proceedings. And that's my motion.
Second.
Our county council has a comment.
A couple comments I noticed on the resolution. I noticed some typos in the resolution, that some of the bullets are repeated on page 8 and 9. So I'd like permission to do the clerical cleanup to that resolution. Also, Commissioner Kaplan made a point to request a finding regarding the fire flow risk and the concern regarding the loss of insurance. So I also recommend that bullet finding is also included in the final resolution, which staff can insert based upon the board's action.
So can I just amend my motion to include, or do you need to read some of the specific typos into the record?
I am okay that you can amend your motion to provide that direction to staff to prepare the final resolution with the typo cleanups and the additional finding related to the fire flows and concern regarding fire insurance.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
You may vote. And your vote is unanimous.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to add also for the record that all of the residents in Del Paso Manor are also my constituents on the Board of Supervisors. So I feel that this is, I have an extra, I think, moral responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility for them to take this action. So I appreciate the work of staff and my fellow commission members. And with that, we'll move to our next item.
Mr. Chair, item 6 is CALAFCO requests letters of support on its omnibus bill.
Okay, Jose.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, right now there is a omnibus bill that's moving through the legislature that CalAFCO is seeking request. And I indicate on the requesting that the CalAFCO, that Sacramento LAFCO approve a letter of support for the bill. This is essentially it's a cleanup item. It's not that difficult of a change. It involves a process that is very, frankly speaking, onerous and doesn't allow for any deviation. And that is the property tax exchange process. This is a minor correction to it that says that if a district does not request a portion of the property tax, that we can bypass it. It goes a long ways towards cleaning up a big problem with the process, but at least it's it's not controversial. It really relieves the burden on LAFCOs, and with that, we can provide a letter of support to the author.
Okay, I'll bring it to the commission. Any comments, Commissioner Jones?
Mr. Chair, I so move.
Second.
Okay, any public comment on this item, Madam Clerk?
There's no public comment. For clarification, it was moved by
Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Kaplan.
Thank you.
Okay, please vote.
You may vote. Your vote is unanimous.
Okay. Bring us to our
Mr.
next
Chair.
item.
Our next item is questions and announcements from the Executive Officer, Commission Council, and Commission Chair and Commissioners.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to add that CalAFCO had its staff training workshop last week, and it was a very successful event. Policy analyst Grabo and I were able to attend. Ms. Fox was unable to for personal reasons, but it was a very successful event. I think your policy analyst has come back with a lot of ideas about what to do with certain things, but one of the things that they highlighted that I think we're going to get working on it right away, which is essentially our website is not ADA compliant for visually impaired. It's only partially compliant. So we do some things right, other things are not. So we are currently doing a scrub of the website to make sure that we're 100% compliant in all cases. And again, she also has other ideas for your staff report and how we present information, and we'll be evaluating those in the coming weeks.
Okay, thank you for that report. Thank you, Christy, for your participation. Council and commissioners' comments? Commissioner Kaplan.
Thank you. Executive Director, I know community member, constituent reach out to you, and I think it's something I'd like to see added to the MSR. Our cemeteries and all of our cemetery districts are full. And unless you've had somebody pass away and you already have a prepaid plot, it is horrifically tragic, and this unfortunately came as a result of family member losing their young child to cancer and having nowhere to bury her. So I would love to see, as I now found out, LAFCO does cemetery districts, that we look at where is another potential area to create and have another cemetery.
Yeah, so I believe it's the same person reached out to me, and we're currently evaluating our response. So if he's watching, just let him know we're not ignoring the question. We're trying to give it as much weight as the question deserves. But we can prepare a staff report kind of detailing what the process would entail and how to go about it. The thing to keep in mind is that all districts have to be viable when they're created. They're supposed to have essentially a business plan to make sure that the district can remain in service for the foreseeable future. We don't want to have a situation where a district can't retain its infrastructure and doesn't have sufficient finances to do so. So it is a process, and cemetery districts are typically funded by property taxes, in addition to burial fees and endowment fees. So that would also involve conversations with the local agencies over the area that this proposed district is supposed to cover, and get an understanding of their willingness to forego a portion of their property taxes to go towards this district. I did deal with underfunded cemetery districts in El Dorado County, and so that's not a situation we want to walk into. And right now we have cemetery districts in current existence that also are having financial crunches as well. So it will take a while, but we can prepare something to study that.
And I appreciate that. I think it's a conversation that should be had, as we are about the basic municipal services, at least if it shows what's viable, what's not viable. Our duty to at least have that conversation. So I appreciate it and your experience in another district which you bring here.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Kaplan. Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to add to this as a corollary, last night we had our Special District Advisory Commission meeting, and we have cemetery districts participate in that, and this has been an ongoing issue, and it does get very complicated very quickly in terms of the tax rate within the original boundary. It will take a lot of work and a lot of, like you said, weighted input, decision, research to come up with some suggestions. But one of the good things, again, with this SDAC, is that there was also discussion, not just among cemeteries, but amongst the recreation and park districts for mutual beneficial activities, i.e. the synergistic effect of cemeteries or parks and rec working together across their traditional boundaries, and it meeting with success for all the districts concerned. Just a quick update. We also went through, again, initiating tiny baby step of the educational goals that our commission pushed forward for MSRs. And I want to thank Desiree Fox, Christy Grabo, and of course Jose for pushing through all the staff work on this. We went through what it takes for MSRs and how it can be broadened and put into a positive perspective, i.e. education, how to improve your website, et cetera, et cetera. So what I want to convey is a very positive effect amongst all the special districts under LAFCO purview. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Jones, and it looks like that concludes our business. And Commissioner Jones, thank you for always adding that synergistic effect to the LAFCO discussion. So, with that, we are adjourned at 7:01.